Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Smash Factor X, which is not only the first super major of the second half of the ranking season, but also Mexico's first major of the entire year. And this event was insane. In 16th place, you had Shiny Mark, SkyJ, MK Big Boss, and Machu. 9th place, you had Alandis, T, Tweak, and Meister. 7th place, Meme and Kameme. 5th place, MK Leo and Siski. 4th place, Glutony. 3rd place, Shootone. 2nd place, Sonics, and winning the entire thing, you had Spargo. So let's talk about how America did at this event, and to be honest, it wasn't super great. You only had one American in the top 16, and to be fair, you didn't have a ton of US talent traveling out to this tournament. For whom did come, you had Cosmos, who ended up getting 49th place, losing to Zal and Zomba, so kind of just unlucky to get Zomba in the loser side of the bracket. And you may be wondering, oh, why is Zomba in the loser side? Well, it's because he ended up losing to Mar, Mexico's best Bayonetta player. So now you're having Bayonetta players with major wins in all four regions of the world, which is pretty crazy. And by that, I mean US, Mexico, Japan, and Europe. At least those are my four major regions. So I think Canada is potentially a region you could add to that list. But regardless, you have Zomba falling into Cosmos for 49th place, which is just pretty unlucky. You also had Cosmos using Inkling and Corrin mainly this tournament. So if I was him, I can't imagine he's too stressed up about it because that is his first tournament using those other characters. But for Zomba, it's definitely an underperformance because after beating Cosmos, he falls to Alandis for 33rd. And not only does Alandis beat Zomba, he also beats Mudace and a couple other players. We'll talk about his run later. But he beats Mudace for 17th place, which is pretty crazy. For context, Mudace lost to Shootone in the winner side of bracket. So Alandis kind of took out half of America there. You had Tweak, who ended up getting 9th place, losing to Siski and Glutony. And while that's not technically a bad placement, it's still an underperformance from Tweak. He is a top 8 seed this event. And it feels like a lot of his recent placements, he's been getting either 7th or 9th. He hasn't really been in the top half of those top 8s. And he's clearly fairly tilted throughout the bracket here at this tournament, which is always unfortunate. You want players playing their best, feeling good about the game. So hopefully the next tournament that he goes to, he'll be feeling a little bit better. And you also had Base Mage and Leon. I do want to give them shoutouts because they actually performed pretty well. Both of them ended up getting 17th place Base Mage with wins over players like Polytopia and Mustang, who had just beaten Hungry Box, and Leon over players like Bonilla and Rocks. And also, really quickly, before I forget, huge shoutouts to Terry Maids in this event. I mean, they went absolutely off. You had Andres FM performing, you had Zal performing, you had Mustang performing. Like, so many Terrys did amazing at this event without the best Terry in the world being in attendance, which is pretty insane. Editing proof block here. I just completely forgot to mention Shattuck, who ended up getting 17th, losing to Shiny Mark and Tweak, so just kind of unlucky that you get Tweak in the loser setup bracket, but he was still able to pick up wins on players like Mr. Lasagna and Manny, so shouts to Shattuck for that. And I gotta shout out the low tier heroes at this event because they went insane. You're gonna have Gilhue, who was one hit away from beating Spargo with Kirby, which is never something that I thought I'd say. You had him going Byleth in the first two games, Spargo that is, trading games with Gilhue, and the last three were gonna be with Cloud. It was last stock, last hit, game 5. Absolutely absurd. It's just crazy to think about how different the entire tournament could have been if a Kirby player landed like one more back here. Such a close set. Highly recommend you watch it. You also had Jazzar, who ended up getting 25th with like 90% Dr. Mario and a little bit of Lucas, but Doc was definitely putting in most of the work, getting wins over players like Law and Nair. Dr. Mario is definitely not a character that's heavily contested for, but you still do have players like Bacon, like Sunosuto, like Jazzar, who is one of the best docs in the world, potentially the best Dr. Mario in the world. And if he keeps putting up runs like this, then I could definitely see him taking that title. You also have Whiskey as well, who ended up getting 17th place with Robin, wins over CK, Mar, Suerto. Suerto played Dr. Mario in that set versus Whiskey as well, though for a majority of the tournament, he was playing characters like Steve, Luigi, Ken. Suerto put out like 50 characters at the top level in this tournament, which is pretty insane, but an amazing run from Whiskey right there. Robin is definitely not a character they see a lot at the top level, and that's for good reasons, because the character is very, very bad, but Whiskey was somehow able to make it work, so huge ups to him for that. As this was a Mexican event, you're going to expect Mexico to pop off. You had Spargo and Leo in the top 8 as usual. Meister, SkyJ, MK Big Boss in the top 16. Nothing out of the ordinary. What was a little crazy, though, was Alandis in 9th and Meme in 7th. For Alandis, able to get wins on Zomba and Mudace, like I already mentioned, as well as wins on Zal, CK, and a couple other players, only losing to T and Kameme. I mean, he looked incredible at this event. Really reminds me of that Shogun style of Snake where he's doing like a million inputs per second and his movement is ridiculous. He's really hard to lock down. His C4 usage was excellent as well. Like, there are a lot of things he was doing were excellent, but that's just one specific thing I wanted to point out. I mean, Alandis, he looked genuinely incredible at this event, and he's a player that I've been throwing into the conversation for best Snake in the world for a long time, and though he definitely doesn't have those results, results-wise, because he hasn't gone to anything, if he keeps putting up performances like this when he actually gets the chance to prove himself, I think that's going to be a lot more serious of a discussion because Alan just, he is genuinely incredible. And speaking of incredible, you have Mei putting up a Yoshi result that isn't by Yoshidora, getting wins on Zal, Mr. R, Machu, who also popped off super hard at this event. I think this is the first time him top 16ing an event of this caliber, so big ups to him for that, Canada, let's go. As well as getting another win on Meister in the loser side. I mean, Mei, he was out of retirement for this event. He went from being a retired player to getting top 8 at Mexico's biggest tournament of the year. That is absolutely ridiculous. He only lost to Shutone and Glutzy, by the way. Very competitive set with both of those players as well. Mei looked incredible, and now we can maybe start pushing that Yoshi propaganda a little bit more. Maybe it's not just Yoshidora being really good with the character. Maybe Yoshi is absolutely ridiculous, but regardless of how good Yoshi is, Mei is undeniably incredible. And even though Mexico did pop off at this event, I think the region that I was the most impressed by was Europe. You had 2 European players in the top 8 with Glutny in 4th and Siski in 5th. You also had Mr. R at 25th and Andres FN in 17th with wins over players like Litton and Joker. Joker is one of the hidden talents of Mexico, by the way, so getting a win on him is massive. And Andres FN is a player I feel like has been absolutely popping off as of late. Europe as a region has been popping off, and if you don't believe me, you have both Siski and Glutny eliminating Tweak and T, as well as Glutny getting wins over Javi, Mei, and MK Leo, and Siski getting wins over Chag and Kameme. I mean, Gluto has really been looking like the king of Europe again. He's reclaimed his throne and has been looking incredible. This bike tech that he's been pushing has made him like 30 times better. I mean, it got him his first ever win over T, who previously had a 5-0 record over him, so big ups to Glutny for that. Gotta be feeling amazing about that, as well as staying MK Leo's Demon Leo has been having a Gluto problem for a little bit right now, and it doesn't seem like that's letting up anytime soon, at least if Glutny has anything to say about it. You also had Siski, who I mean has been performing at all the events he's been to. Did amazing at Battle BC, did amazing at King of Fields. Now he does amazing here. Maybe we were too hasty to give Yara the title of the best Samus in the world. Now, for the first half of the year, I definitely still think it goes to Yara because he just has more good performances under his belt, but Siski didn't have too many opportunities to prove himself, and the way that he's been playing late, it looks like he is hungry to reclaim his title. And the final region that we got to talk about is going to be Japan. You had T in 9th, Kameme in 7th, and Shutone in 3rd. T performed his seed here, getting wins on Alendis, Waka, and MK Big Boss. Now, while it's not an underperformance by T, it's definitely weird to not see him top 8 in these events because we know he's such a ridiculous player, and he is getting very close to his credit. So this is the tournament that I wouldn't really be too stressed about if you are a T fan. You're hoping for that bounce back because the first half of the year was a little bit rough from him. And to be fair, it's rough to his standard. He's still like a top 20 player in the world because he is incredible. But when he's not top 8 in these events, feels a little bit weird. You also had Kameme, who is very used to top 8 in these events, getting wins on Andres FN, Meister, and Alendis. All 3 of his characters putting in work this tournament. At least the Sora and the Mega Man definitely did. The Sora obviously doing a majority of the lifting. Mega Man 3-0ing Alendis, and the Sheik came out against Spargle's Cloud, not to any success, but I really like that he attempted it. That's like literally the perfect matchup to bring out the Sheikin. So maybe next time, change the game plan a little bit, work on a couple more combos, and you'll be absolutely fine. It's not obviously going to be that easy to beat Spargle, but hey, I like to think it is when you're tri-maining a character. And then finally, you're going to have Shutone, who's able to get wins on Nair, Mudes, Mei, Siski, and Glutny. Another incredible run from him. I mean, he's definitely a top 10 player in the world. I'd say the 3rd best player in Japan right now. And it's crazy that he's getting results like this. I mean, it's only the 3rd best, but Japan, I mean, they're a ridiculous region, and Shutone is one of the reasons they're so good because this guy is unreal. And I also got to add that the Olimar did absolute work in this tournament, and to be fair, he did play 2 Europeans in the loser side of bracket, and that's literally an Olimar's match in heaven, but still, shout out to Olimar. And there is one more invader that I do want to talk about, and that is going to be Shiny Mark, who ended up getting 13th place here with wins on players like Shattuck and Show. Took Spargo to Game 5, really pushed him to the brink there, as well as losing to Meister in the loser side of bracket 3-0. And honestly, Meister's probably the worst draw he could have gotten in this bracket, and Spargo ended up winning the tournament, so you can't be feeling too bad about those losses. And I think a player like Shiny Mark, the most important thing for him is experience. The more reps he gets under his belt, the more comfortable he's going to be in the tournament setting, and the better he's going to be at closing out some of these really close sets like he had with Spargo. I really think Shiny Mark is a player that is due to win a major at some point, and these are just the steps to finally getting to that grand goal. So nice placement from Shiny Mark. Should be feeling good about it. And I know a lot of people got to be wondering about him, so let's finally talk about MK Leo. Ended up getting 5th place, not an underperformance by any means. He actually exactly performed his seed, was still able to get wins on Leon, Skyjay, and Siski. And up until the top 8, he looked flawless. Didn't drop a single game. Was in the top 8 though, a little bit different, losing to both Spargo and Glutony 3-1, playing all Joker in those sets, except the last game against Gluto where he went violent, and obviously it did not work. Now, Gluto has been a thorn in his side for a long time now, so it's not crazy that he lost to him. Spargo as well, that's a player that he was 2-2 with previously in the season. You did have him reverse 3-0ing Spargo at Crown with the Joker, though, so clearly Spargo put some work into that matchup. And if you're Leo here, it's not too big of a deal. You matched your seed, but it's not the bounce back that you were hoping for going into the second half of the season. Didn't get the back-to-back win at Smash Factor, but at the end of the day, it's not a bad placement. This is going to be Leo's last tournament for a little bit. I believe he said he wasn't traveling outside of Mexico for a couple months, and you are still going to have a couple more events coming up in Mexico, so it's not going to be a Leo drought completely. Don't worry, Leo fans, but he is going to be taking a little bit of time off, and hopefully that's going to be good for his competitive state. Maybe find more love of the game, or maybe we'll find that he just doesn't want to compete anymore. That'd be the unfortunate outcome, but let's just pray that he comes back with a rejuvenated mindset, because at the end of the day, he still is incredible at this game, and we want to see him perform. And finally, we've reached the top 2 of the event. Sonics in second, Spargo and first. This was the grand finals at Gommel. It's the grand finals at Smash Factor. It's probably going to be the grand finals for the next event these two guys go to, because they just look unstoppable, like legitimately unstoppable. You have Sonics with wins over Junko, who's another amazing Bayonetta player, as well as MK Big Boss, Glutony, 2 wins on Shutone, and Spargo in the initial set of grand finals. And just to show how good Sonics is at the Aegis matchup, in both sets that Sonics played against Shutone, Shutone didn't even try Aegis because he just knew it wasn't worth it. Sonics has put so much time, so much resources into that matchup, and he's so amazing at it. And even though he was really good at the matchup, it wasn't enough to beat Spargo this time around. I mean, he beat him once, but not twice. He had Spargo with wins over Gilhue, Shining Mark, Kameme, MK Leo, and Sonics twice. So even though it wasn't the hometown hero who ended up winning Smash Factor, you still had a Mexican taking the event home. And I gotta say, I really love this matchup between Sonics and Spargo. And as I said earlier, I think it's a matchup we're going to be seeing a lot more, because these guys are just going to be meeting each other in the winners finals, in the grand finals, a lot of the time in the losers finals, just deeper in the bracket in general, because they're both insane. But you have Spargo, who's potentially the best player in the world, playing Sonic's worst matchup, and you have Sonics making it look like the matchup is winning for him. Like, the dichotomy between these two players is super impressive. I really enjoyed it. Also for Spargo, he might not be ranked the best player in the first half of the year, but for the entire year, you definitely know that he wants that best player title, and this is a great start. I mean, you won a super major, only dropping a set to a top 5 player, as well as picking up a bunch of good wins. So big up to both of those guys starting off their second half of the year. Absolutely amazing, and I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed sports. It's been absolutely real. If there's a player I left out at any point in the video, please just let me know down below. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Be sure to sub and all that yada yada. I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.